Hey friends, welcome to Chirpee Tales. The Pink City, royalty of old Havelis, blue pottery, hand paintings, silver jewelry, वगैरह वगैरह. I love all these things. सबसे ज़्यादा तो राजस्थान reminds me of the Veer Rajputs and their आन बान और शान. There are so many stories of Rajput valor and how they glorified the saying प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाए. Of course, that led to demise of many Rajput kings as well. Their egos too big to call out the enemy's bluff. I am today going to tell you a story of a modern day Rajput. मैं ऑफिस वर्क के लिए राजस्थान ट्रैवल कर रही थी. I was thrilled to be upgraded in the business class. Ahead of me was a tiny man wearing a Nehru jacket who was summoning the air hostess several times. पता है क्यों? उसके पास ढेर सारे न्यूज़पेपर्स थे. एक पेपर पढ़ता, फिर नीचे फेंक देता, and then call the air hostess to pick it up. फिर वापस दूसरा न्यूज़पेपर, फिर तीसरा. He did this several times. I was getting irritated looking at the whole thing. तो imagine air hostess को क्या हुआ होगा? I had to see this नमूना. तो मैं उठ के went to the washroom so that I could see his face while coming. He had a big mustache which was curving upwards on the sides. छोटू सा आदमी, लेकिन कितना तंग कर रहा था. मैं थोड़े केस पेपर्स पढ़ रही थी, but was getting so disturbed thanks to him. While getting down from the aircraft, he did not even have the courtesy to say thank you to the air hostess. Flight delayed थी. I just had half an hour to finish lunch and attend a meeting. My colleague Amitabh and I reached the meeting place, which was a home cum office of some important person in Rajasthan. One, Mr. Himmat Singh Ji. It was a beautiful Haveli. We were led to the well-landscaped lawn with pretty roses. We were asked to sit down in a beautifully engraved garden chairs at the matching tables. The secretary of Himmat Singh Ji said, साहेब जी बुलाएंगे 5 मिनट में. तब तक आप चाय या कॉफी लेंगे? We asked for tea, which was served to us in silverware along with dry fruits and namkeens. After 15-20 minutes, Himmat Singh Ji's secretary led us to the Haveli. Marble flooring, huge ceilings and pretty artifacts से सारे सजे हुए rooms थे. We were led from the corridor to the office. In this office was a big mela. Almost 15 people sitting on the rug on the floor, folding hands towards Himmat Singh Ji. Women were in ghungats covering their entire face, while the men with big mustaches wore white pagdi, dhoti and kurtas. Their clothes were soiled. ऐसे लग रहा था that they were farmers and Himmat Singh Ji was a zamindar. I had never met him, so was keen to know who this Maharaja type person was. So I turned my head to see a tiny person wearing a pagdi and a Nehru jacket lying in a sleeping Buddha pose on the beautifully carved sofa, speaking to these people who were sitting on the floor. On the table in front of him were almost 10 telephone instruments kept along with few cell phones. Himmat Singh Ji turned his face towards me and yes, you guessed it right. अरे ये वही थे. He was the same irritating paper फेंकने वाला person from the flight. Ugh, disgusting. I already hated him. लेकिन फिर मैंने अपने आप को समझाया. Don't be judgmental, Shilpa. Chill. This guy reminded me of Nathulal from the Amitabh wala movie, Sharabi, and I imagined him saying, "मूछे हो तो हिम्मत सिंह जैसी, वरना ना हो." While I was in deep shock and deep thoughts, Amitabh, obviously not the actor Baba, my colleague, whispered to me, "Ma'am," to realize I was staring at this Tidlu man when he wished me namaste, just moving his neck but not moving from his Buddha pose. With a hand gesture, he asked us to sit at the chairs opposite him. He then asked his secretary to take all those people sitting on the floor with folded hands to another room to get back after he finished the meeting with us. After the people were shifted, he looked at us and said, "कहिए, क्या सेवा करे आपकी?" We discussed few work-related things, while he again offered us chai with dry fruits. फिर suddenly he sat up from his sleeping Buddha pose and yelled, "Raj Singh!" Raj Singh came running in the room and stood with his head bowed when Himmat Singh ji yelled, "खड़े खड़े मुंह क्या देख रहे हो? जाओ कुछ मीठा लेके आओ." Poor guy ran off as if he was in marathon race and in few minutes came back with some motichur ke laddus and some famous hing ki kachoris from Jaipur. He again stood with his head bowed when Himmat Singh ji made an ishara to him. Raj Singh jumped and sat down at Himmat Singh ji's feet, removed a cloth from his pocket and cleaned his feet and then his shoes, and then put Himmat Singh ji's feet in the shoes, after which he moved away in haste, standing again with his head bowed down. Himmat Singh ji got up and said, "आइए, आपको हवेली की सैर करवाता हूँ, जब तक ड्राफ्ट्स रेडी नहीं होते." Amitabh and I were still in shock to see all this. Without saying a word, both of us got up and followed him. He was showing off his haveli and then his garden and explaining every tree and flower in the garden. The backyard of the haveli garden hosted a beautiful marble water fountain. As we completed our tour of the haveli and the garden, Himmat Singh ji led us to the same chairs we had sat on when we arrived. He sat with us. There was a bunch of loose papers kept in a folder on this table. Himmat Singh ji took out a small, classy, gold-rimmed reading glasses and removed the loose papers from the folder. After reading every paper, he would throw it on the ground. Due to the breeze, some papers started flying here and there. When he yelled again for Raj Singh again came running and started collecting the papers Himmat Singh ji had thrown. Then Raj Singh sat down near Himmat Singh ji's feet and would catch the rest of every paper that was thrown. I was disgusted now. My patience was being tested. फिर भी I was quiet. Post collection of the thrown papers, Himmat Singh ji looked into his gold watch, then gave an angry look to Raj Singh. Raj Singh, with his head bowed, ran inside the haveli and came back in a jiffy with a silver box in his hand. He opened the box in front of Himmat Singh ji and prepared a pan and gave it to him. Now, this man was irritating me to another level. I was dying to leave this place when Himmat Singh ji's secretary got the work papers we needed and handed them over to us. Himmat Singh ji ने अपने secretary को कुछ इशारे किए. Secretary went inside the haveli and came back with a big bouquet of flowers and handed it over to him. Himmat Singh ji then handed the bouquet to me, saying, "आपसे मिलके बहुत अच्छा लगा. ये अपना ही घर समझिए. कभी भी आइए. वैसे आज रात हमारे साथ डिनर क्यों नहीं करती आप? आपकी पसंद का खाना बनवाएंगे." Before I could open my mouth to say no, Amitabh quickly said, "Sir, मैम की शाम की फ्लाइट है. कुछ अर्जेंट मीटिंग्स है मुंबई में." अच्छा, कोई नहीं. हमारे जयपुर में कवि सम्मेलन है नेक्स्ट मंथ. तभी आइएगा हमारी कविता सुनने. I said धन्यवाद. जरूर. And before we left from there, I called out, "राज सिंह जी, प्लीज यहाँ आएंगे." Raj Singh, who was standing with his head bowed down, looked up a bit, giving a side glance at Himmat Singh ji, who nodded his head in an approval. Even at a distance of 6 feet, Raj Singh ran and stood right in front of me with his head bowed down. I removed a yellow rose from the bouquet while handing it over to him. I looked at him and said, "Raj Singh ji, कभी ऐसे झुकिएगा नहीं. हम सब सेम हैं." He looked at me and grinned so much that an entire banana would have fitted in his mouth sideways. I saw the glint in Raj Singh's eyes. We bid namaste to Himmat Singh ji, who gave a warm smile to Raj Singh as well as me as we left. तो फिर शुक्रिया, करम, मेहरबानी दोस्तों. जिंदगी हसीन है, मगर सिर्फ उनके लिए जिन्हें रिस्पेक्ट देना आता है, क्योंकि वही जानते हैं कि आन, बान और शान किसे कहते हैं. Hasta la vista. See you in my next video of Chirpee Tales.